Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Srimad Bhagavatam study class. And today we'll be covering Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22 of Canto 3, the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahūti. Because of some Facebook pop-up, our previous session had ended, so we are continuing. Please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari, Yashodanandana Rajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Rajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Hare Krishna, Hare
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी।
हरे कृष्णा डियर डिवोटीज, आप सबका स्वागत है, आप सबका अभिनंदन है।
Hare Krishna, dear viewers. Welcome everyone to श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास। आप सभी का अभिनंदन है, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। खासकर न्यू व्यूअर्स जो आज पहली बार ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं, आपके बेनिफिट के लिए हम बता दें, जीव तत्व प्रभु जी वीकडेज पर श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास के ब्यूटीफुल लेसन्स हमें समराइज करके बताते हैं एट द चैप्टर लेवल। और खासकर जो आज सारे व्यूअर्स पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं इस श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास में, हम आपका खास स्वागत करना चाहते हैं। लूशिया, कृष्णन, बदुला, सुभाश्री साहू, गौतम सूद, अजय सवराजी, जुगोल चंद्रो, बुद्धदेव पृस्ती, कनवाल कुमार, श्रुति प्रज्ञान, गज्जर पंकज, रामेश भाई पंसूरिया और बहुत सारे व्यूअर्स जिनके नाम स्क्रॉल कर गए हैं और जो व्यूअर्स कमेंट भी करते जा रहे हैं। आपकी ग्रीटिंग्स हम एक्नॉलेज कर रहे हैं। ब्रजेश शर्मा जी, जयेश पटेल जी, हरे कृष्णा सभी को। और बहुत सारे व्यूअर्स हैं जो कई बार क्वेश्चंस लिखते हैं ड्यूरिंग द क्लास। आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज़ अपने क्वेश्चंस टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द क्लास वहाँ पर कमेंट्स में डालें ताकि हम प्रभु जी को आपके क्वेश्चंस बताएं और प्रभु जी आपके क्वेश्चंस एड्रेस कर सकते हैं। ही वुड लाइक टू हेल्प यू विद योर स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ। रजनी गुप्ता जी, शर्मिला घोष जी, ज्योत्सना जी, अनु गर्ग जी, वेलकम। हरे कृष्णा राधिका जी, सुनंदा जी, द्वारकानाथ हिंदुपुर जी, गुड टू सी यू ऑल। अमित गुप्ता जी, राधे यादव जी, राजीव दत्ता जी, राम राय एंड रीना बिस्वास। हरे कृष्णा। सो प्रभु जी, प्लीज गो अहेड विद द क्लास।
Hare Krishna dear devotees, please join us for Mangalacharan prayers. We'll sing them together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Shrotam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto He Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhatsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Neshtiki. Hare Krishna, Devi.
हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स, आई एम गोइंग टू पुट ऑन द माइक्रोफोन, लेकिन उससे पहले आपसे शेयर कर दें कि कमेंट्स एरिया में हमने मंगलाचरण प्रेयर्स आपके लिए पेस्ट कर दी हैं। प्लीज़ सेव देम। ये प्रेयर्स श्रीमद् भागवतम स्टडी श्रवण कीर्तन से पहले की जाती हैं। और इसके अलावा मैंने अभी शेयर की है लिंक। प्रभु जी जो चैप्टर और कैंटो से आपके साथ लेसन शेयर करेंगे, उसकी इंफॉर्मेशन कमेंट्स में पेस्ट कर दी है। प्लीज गो अहेड एंड ओपन दैट लिंक।
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahūti. Verse 1. Maitreya uvacha evam avishkrite shesha guna karmodayo munim savridaiva tam samrad uparatam uvachaha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Maitreya said, after describing the greatness of the emperor's manifold qualities and activities, the sage became silent, and the emperor, feeling modesty, addressed him as follows. Hare Krishna, please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatadaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rāma 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 Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees. So this chapter we are discussing the marriage of two great personalities, Kardama Muni, who is also son of Lord Brahma himself, born from his shadow, and Devahūti, who happens to be the daughter of the emperor of this universe, again Swayambhuva Manu. And he had 2 sons and 3 daughters, right? So Priyavrata and Uttanpada are his 2 sons, and they were ruling on this planet Earth, which is the place with 7 dweep. So again, 7 continents. So Srila Prabhupada in the previous chapter described those glories. And in this chapter, we'll be focusing on how to completely take shelter of the Lord in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So again, we all take shelter of something, right? But our true pleasure, our true happiness, our true solace, our true shelter is at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, how we take shelter, we learn from these 2 great personalities, Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni. So Maitreya, Rishi Maitreya, he is reciting this incident of the meeting of Swayambhuva Manu and personality Kardama Muni, the great personality, the sage, and he is rejoicing this description. So again, Maitreya Muni is describing it to Vidurji, and Mahatma Vidur, who is hearing it, is also relishing this sweet pastime. And again, when devotees, they meet with each other, they glorify each other, right? They are not like, if you see non-devotees meeting, they are more about, what about me, right? It's all about I and mine in that case. Not realizing that if you try to focus on yourself, right, I causes envy. Because I relates to various kind of upadhis, various kind of positions one has taken and one would like to take. And mine refers to what belongs to me, which causes lust, the greed and lust. Because of the lust, one acquires more and more. And Srila Prabhupada, by his example, said that this should not be the tendency of devotees. So that's why devotees, they would like to share everything that they have. For example, we share Kṛṣṇa consciousness, which is the true wealth, right? Which is very rare, right? It is, Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshvavagmam Dhargamam Susukham Kartum Abhyayam. So first of all, if we want to share something as a knowledge, then we want to share the best thing. And what is the best thing? Lord Krishna says, Kṛṣṇa consciousness is Raj Vidya. So again, the knowledge about Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge we get from Bhagavad Gita, SRIMADBHAGAVATAM, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Srila Prabhupada's books and the Acharya's books, like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and others, they have the king of knowledge, right? And when we want to share a secret, then we want to share the best secret, even though it may be very well known, right? Sometimes people say, but everybody knows about Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Yes, everyone knows about Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but do we understand it? Have we realized it? Are we singing with that mood? Because till we have this material body, it's a sign that we have not yet attained perfection. So we want to fully realize it. And when we are in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, then we are not in this material world. Then even our body, our senses, our mind, our intelligence, everything is spiritualized. And we are in Vaikuntha. So again, right here, right now, when we realize, when we chant the holy name with love, with devotion, with gratitude, we transcend the 3 modes of material nature and are residing in Vaikuntha, taking complete shelter of the Lord in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So please join us in chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare, So again, we are asking, my dear Lord, my Mother, Lord Kṛṣṇa, O Mother Radhe, please engage me in your service. This is a humble request we are placing with love, with devotion, with modesty, with honesty, with humility. So again, so many ways. So this is where these two personalities are discussing. And so again, there are three main lessons we'll be learning in this chapter. First is related to how the society can overcome the three miseries, because it is with the help of the Brahmanas, right? We can ensure that the spiritual goal remains the focus of the society, and they act as sadhus by their association and guidance, right? So, sadhu sangha, sarva shastakaya, love matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi haya. So again, all scriptures are revealing this to us, that momentary association with a sadhu, devotee association, can deliver us all kind of perfections. And they lead us, they train us, and inspire the society. So again, that is the mood of sadhu. So this is covered in the first 8 verses. Then from 9 through 25th verse, marriage, is required within the society, and we should follow the instructions and also make sure that the injunctions to a partner, right, we follow the injunctions in the scriptures and instructions of the sadhus, the sadhuas, so that we marry a partner who suits one's nature. So one should marry a matching partner, so that there is meeting of the mind, meeting of the heart, and meeting of the approach. And we all understand that marriages, right, we all very much like weddings and those kind of functions, but we should also understand the secret behind it, like how, what is the criteria for good marriage, how it should be performed well, because we see many kind of evils in the current society in the name of dowry, right? And so we'll be discussing some of those aspects. And third is that one can lead Krishna conscious householder's life by acting for Lord's pleasure and engagement in devotional service to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, to please Shri Shri Radha Ras Bihari Ji, Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Ji, Shri Shri Radha Govind Ji. And one can thus transcend the mode of material nature, the three modes of material nature. So this is described from verse 26 to 39. So those 14 verses, they describe this aspect. So again, we will be focusing on these lessons. So in the first 8 verses, as we hear, that in the previous chapter, near the end of the previous chapter, Kardama Muni is glorifying that Swayambhuva Manu, you are the administrator of the universe. And because of your bow and arrow, because you are protecting the weak, so again, it is not that equality is important, equity is more important than equality. Sometimes people say, no, we are equal to everyone. No, equity. People who are, at disadvantaged, positions. So if they are lacking something, so they should have an opportunity so that they can pick it up. And in Krishna consciousness, this is very nicely taken care of, where the devotees, they go out to towns and villages, in preaching, and whoever is ready to hear, they are also, taking care to preach that person, while they are giving everyone the chance to hear. And when Lord Kṛṣṇa in their heart will invoke them to understand Krishna consciousness, to take to devotional service, then they are always welcome. So, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. So again, Lord is Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is, the best friend, the benefactor, the well-wisher of every living entity. So similarly, the devotees also follow the footsteps. So Brahmanas focus on delivering the society, not just themselves, but the society. So they are also referred to as spiritual masters. But also understand that a Brahmana is a Vaishnava. So Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana. So that is a devotee of Lord Vishnu is automatically a Brahman. And this is because even Brahman, when we talk about, we are talking about people in the mode of goodness. But a Vaishnava has transcended the mode of all the three modes, which includes the mode of goodness. Now, why Brahmana has been still referred? Because he is in Shuddha Sattva. So there is no tinge of mode of passion and ignorance. or ignorance. While in the case of Brahmanas in this material world who are not Vaishnavas, they have those Mishra Bhakti, right? So they have the mix of passion and ignorance. And they, sometimes when we go to India and we are visiting some of our relatives, at that time we see some of the Brahmanas, they come. First thing they ask is, can we have tea? And we are like surprised a little bit. And afterwards they take out some tambaku and starts beating on it and then pick it up and put it in their mouth. We're like wondering what's going on. And then he says, आपके घर में स्मोकिंग करने से ये स्प्रिंकलर चल जाएंगे क्या? मैं जरा बाहर थोड़ा सा स्मोक करके आता हूँ. We are like completely bewildered. Because these are not the symptoms of a Brahmana, right? These are the symptoms of one who is in the clutches of Maya. So such persons who are constantly engaged in such activities, means again, some devotees, they had visited some international conference, and it just so happened that there were some great spiritual leaders who were present. And it was surprising that even where Lord Buddha had forbidden, means again he has derided Vedas, not because the Vedas were bad, but because people could not understand Vedas, right? So again, people could not understand Vedas, and so they were causing all kind of havoc. They were literally opening slaughterhouses in the name of religion. So he said, no, don't sacrifice animals, you know. If Vedas say that, I deride Vedas. So he said, you know, don't use Vedas, because it is not the Vedas are wrong, because you don't understand. But if you tell someone that you are wrong, people don't take it, right? They don't understand it. They don't understand why that has been said, and they become inimical to such a personality. So this is Lord appearing as Lord Buddha. Lord Kṛṣṇa is appearing so as Lord Buddha. So Lord Buddha is an incarnation of Lord Kṛṣṇa. And he is saying that because people can't understand. Similarly, when people want to do meditation, people, you know, in this Kali age you can't meditate because it takes tens of thousands of years. But many people, in the name of becoming guru, you know, they use, you know, they bewilder the general population. They say, you know, you meditate on this, you meditate on that, give me some money and meditate on this mantra, and in 6 months you will become God. You know, and you will be able to see God face to face, not realizing that actually we do see God face to face, because in Kali Kale Nama Rupe Kṛṣṇa Avatare, Lord appears automatically in His holy name as His holy name. So the name Kṛṣṇa and the personality Kṛṣṇa are not different. He appears as Archa Vigraha form, and Archa Vigraha form, the deity form in the temple, has gone through Pran Pratishtha and all the, you know, regulations and injunctions in the Shastras, and Lord also appears as SRIMADBHAGAVATAM, right? Krishna Swadhamo Padyate Dharma Jnana Divi Saha Purana Ko Dhunodhita. Again, this is the Puran, right? Kalo Nashtam Drisha Esha Purana Ko Dhunodhita. So again, to destroy the darkness is because of the ignorance, the naissance in this age of Kali. This scripture, you know, was revealed. So Lord invented as a sound incarnation, which is also, you know, this is also called Shruti Shastra. So there are some amazing things that we hear in this particular chapter. So here, Kardama Muni had earlier glorified that Swayambhuva Manu, you are with your bow and arrow, you as an administrator, as a Kshatriya, you are carrying out your duties very nicely, and that you are subduing all miscreants, people who are inimical towards the devotees, towards the innocent, you know, weak public, right? Old, you know, persons, ladies and children, they need to be protected at all times. They should always be given protection. So again, we realize that, you know, when, you know, two devotees are discussing, how they are discussing, they are glorifying each other. So again, hearing the glorification, how Swayambhuva Manu takes it is that thank you for reminding me the duty of a Kshatriya. So he is feeling modest, right? So it is not Kardama Muni is saying, see, I am performing all these yajnas, you should participate in these yajnas and give me a lot of wealth so that I can perform these yajnas more opulently, right? So again, he is continuing to do his service, and he realizes that these are my duties, and Swayambhuva Manu, who is the administrator of the universe, he is carrying out his duties very nicely, and very respectfully he is glorifying the duties of Swayambhuva Manu. and hearing his own glorification, again, a materialist would get puffed up. Yes, I'm very important. That's what he would say. But Swayambhuva Muni is showing his true nature. He is feeling modest, and he's simply bowing down, and he's saying that you are a great Brahmana, and Brahmanas are our shelter. He is saying that you are the spiritual masters of this universe, and today that I have touched the dust from your lotus feet, my life has become blissful. So he's identifying that I am fallen and you are a great personality to be able to take dust from your lotus feet of a Vaishnava. My life has become perfect. So again, this is a reciprocation. A Kshatriya is responsible to maintain a Brahmana. Now when we look at this from the current perspective, what's happening in South India, it is shocking, because this again proves Kala Shudra Sambhava, that in this Kali age, people who are born, they are in Shudra qualities, because many of them take the administrative political positions, and they are politicians and part of the local state government. And instead of maintaining the Brahmanas, instead of maintaining the temples, providing the support, in South India, they actually overtake all the management of the temples, and whatever is the offering made by general populace, which should be used in spreading Krishna consciousness all around the world, and even in India, especially in India, instead of doing that, they are actually taking away that money and using it their purpose. So this is a place in Kali age, we are saying that the Brahmanas are maintaining, the Lord is maintaining the Kshatriyas, or the Shudras in this case, many of them, because they have taken up the position of Kshatriyas, but they have not understood the qualities of Kshatriyas. This is a major conflict currently we see. And they are looking at equality instead of equity. Equity is to kind of understand that people who need protection should be given protection, and Brahmanas should be cared for. They should be maintained. They should be protected, because just like the head of a body, right? So again, he says that you have appeared from the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's referring to Lord Brahma. But we also understand from Vishwarupa that Brahmanas appear from the face, so the head is important. And here is also saying that you appear from the heart. So heart and head. Yes, sometimes Brahmanas are said to be you're appearing from the mouth, because from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vedas and all the scriptures are appearing. Bhagavad Gita appears. Lord sings. The song of God is also known as SRIMADBHAGAVATAM Gita. And when head is referred, then again we also understand that in a body, head is most important. If the head is cut, then of course the body cannot survive. So if there is no Brahmana in the society cannot be well maintained in spiritual consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. So Brahmanas, especially the ones who are Vaishnavas, they must be maintained. Again, make a distinction, because not all Brahmanas are Brahmanas, because in this Kali age, we see that many of the Shudras have taken their position, and they have taken up this assignment to show themselves as Brahmanas, while it should be the devotees who are by their very example, by their life, they are engaging in Krishna consciousness, they are constantly engaged in devotee association and glorifying the Lord, they are engaged in devotional service, and they are constantly enlightening other living entities to take to devotional service. So here, Brahmanas are responsible, they ensure that the goal of life is attained, which is every living entity has an opportunity to be able to go back home, back to Godhead. So they are preaching, they are sharing, and they are engaging others in Krishna consciousness. And just by doing that, just by following the instructions of a Vaishnava, and it is said, Srila Prabhupada, he is very humbly saying that when we follow the instructions of a Vaishnava, so even a momentary association is, it can provide perfection to us. And he gives the example that the first time that he met his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, at that time he got the instruction that please preach this knowledge, translate these books in English and preach it to the Western world. And Srila Prabhupada, he said that just by following this, My spiritual master is preaching Krishna consciousness all around the world through his disciple. So again, he's taking this very interesting position. The way he is glorifying is, he's not accepting any credit for himself. These are another great qualities of a Brahmana. So today we are discussing the qualities of a Brahmana. That a Brahmana is not interested in glorifying himself. And we see that there are great Brahmanas. There is an assembly of Brahmanas at Naimisharanya, right? And all these are eager to hear from Sutta Goswami. So Sutta Goswami here is reciting the whole SRIMADBHAGAVATAM to the sages at Naimisharanya, and Shaunaka Rishi is the spokesperson. And all these sages are actually from, if you look at the caste and class perspective, then within Brahmanas also there are various categories, right? And Sutta Goswami does not belong to a very high class of Brahman, but he is a Vaishnava. So realizing that Vaishnava is greater than Brahmana, he is being placed, he has been invited to speak on SRIMADBHAGAVATAM, and they are all eager to hear from him. Here we see great personalities are gathered, where we see, Vyasadeva is sitting, Devashi Narad is sitting, Asita Devala, and great personalities including Vasishtha Vishwamitra in this assembly. And Sutta Goswami was also in this assembly. But who is speaking? Shukdev Goswami, son of Vyasadeva, who is a disciple of Devashi Narad. So again, his spiritual master, his father is also sitting in the assembly, and Shukdev Goswami, the son, is speaking. His grand spiritual master, Devashi Narad, is sitting in the assembly, and Shukdev Goswami is speaking. And he is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, who is fasting for 7 days until death. So that's like not Bhagavad Saptaha, but rather Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, constant hearing, and reading Srimad Bhagavatam is important. So again, this is where we hear how the devotees are constantly preaching, and here we see the example as Swayambhuva Manu is now glorifying Kardama Muni. And so as he is glorifying Kardama Muni, and afterwards, Kardama Muni, he recognizes, he says that yes, you are magnanimous soul. And Swayambhuva Manu, it's very interesting that even though Kardama Muni had glorified his qualities, Swayambhuva Manu is identifying it very differently. He is saying, thank you for instructing me about the duties of a Kshatriya. Because all the aspects were actually, he was carrying that out. But he was not saying that I am doing all this. He sometimes, it is very, one's ego can get puffed up. But here Swayambhuva Manu is showing as an example that he is a Raja Rishi. He is a saintly king. Among the kings, he is a saint. So that's why, Evam parampara praptam imam rajasya vishnu. So again, Lord Kṛṣṇa is saying in Bhagavad Gita that, starting from Swayambhuva Manu, the great kings, they received this knowledge in parampara, in disciplic succession. And of course, Swayambhuva Manu received it from Devashi Narad as well as Lord Brahma himself. So he followed the parampara, and his descendants, Priyavrata, Uttanpa, they followed the parampara. And of course, Uttanpa's sons is one of the glorious personalities that we will be discussing later on extensively. So here we hear, and if you know the answer, please write, who's the son of Uttanpa who we will be discussing later on. So here, Kardama Muni, he is quiet, and then, allowing Swayambhuva Manu to reveal his mind. And Swayambhuva Manu is saying that actually, I have approached you because I am attached to my daughter, and I am looking for a right groom, right? A matching groom. And so here he is putting forth the proposal. So father is bringing the proposal of his daughter to the bridegroom's, the prospective bridegroom's place. Some amazing aspects have been discussed in the purport, which is where Kardama Muni was already looking for a suitable wife. So he worshipped Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu revealed that Swayambhuva Manu will be coming to you in due course of time, and he would be offering you his daughter Devahūti, who has black eyes. Now, black eyes is a sign of beauty. In today's time, people are so bewildered, they run after brown, blue, green, grey, all kind of variations. Forget that the black eyes are the most beautiful eyes as per the scriptures. And we also see that he is identifying. So, Swayambhuva Manu, he has a golden complexion. So, again, he has a fair body, golden hair, right? And so, again, we also understand that he is the administrator of the world. And he happens to be a great personality, yet he is so humble in his dealings. And he is putting forth and he is saying that my daughter, she is just suitable for you. Now, this, if somebody sees it from current times perspective, they would be bewildered. Kardama Muni, he is saying she would be perfect for you, and people would say, but she is the princess, right? And her father happens to be the administrator of the universe. Her brothers happen to be the kings, the emperor of this planet Earth. They are running the affairs on behalf of their father. And on top of that, she has been brought up in a palatial means again building, as in a nice kingly arrangements. Everything has been provided to her. And here, Kardama Muni, he lives in a hermitage, right, at the bank of Saraswati. A very humble living. So sometimes people say, how is he offering? And how will he think that, she will be satisfied? So again, sometimes people get bewildered. So there is a very nice story in the scriptures that comes. What happens is, once there is a king, he goes to a hermitage, right? He comes to know that a great rishi has come to an ashram at the outskirts of his kingdom. Right in the villages, that's where normally ashrams are. So he goes to see the sage, that the sage is residing there with his disciples. And he gets down from his chariot, he pays obeisances, Dandvat Pranam, and he looks at the sage and he says, my dear sage, I would like to offer you something so that you are in a better situation. Because he is looking at the sage and he is saying that the sage's body is completely soiled. He only has one cloth around his waist. He looks very weak, very, not so effulgent, and he is, constantly in meditation, constantly preaching. So he thinks of it. Yes, he is following, at least he is understanding that his purpose is to maintain the Brahmanas. So he is asking, how can I help you? How can I offer you? But then what he says is that I would like to offer you so that you have a nice ashram, so that you get nice food stuff to eat, so that you get nice arrangements and facilities. And the sage looked at the king and he says, what makes you think? I'm very happy here. Because king is thinking, because he lives in an opulent palace, he has all kind of facilities, he has all kind of comforts. And he sees all those comforts are missing. So he is looking from his perspective, that if I have to live in this ashram, if the sage asks me to live in this ashram for one day, it will be very miserable for me. From that perspective, this king is revealing his mind, saying that you will be comfortable. And the sage says, no, I'm very comfortable. My students, they go out for Madhukari, they go out asking for, they're begging in the village and town, and they collect some rice. And my wife, she takes that rice and she takes some tamarind from this tamarind tree, and she cooks tamarind rice, and we all eat, and we are engaging in devotion service. At that time, it struck the king that, oh, actually the sage is very happy, all his disciples are very happy, his wife is very happy, because they are looking at the basic necessities to sustain their life, while their focus is in preaching Krishna consciousness, in preaching the glories of the Lord. So no matter where, if one has facilities, one should use the facilities. If one has no facilities and has a very humble living, they should continue to have that humble living. But the focus is Krishna consciousness. To take the shelter, we have to look at what is necessary and not what is wanted. So there is a gulf of difference between what is needed and what is wanted. Again, the scriptures reveal, and this again Acharyas also tell us, that we have sufficient on this planet Earth to meet the need of every living entity, not just human beings, the birds, the bees, the aquatics, the serpents and everything. So everyone, humans, all varieties of human beings, All their needs can be met, but it does not have enough even to meet one man's greed. So again, when somebody wants something, then his wants can never be filled, even after the whole earth can be given to him. He will always be hankering. So that is what we see when we hear about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, how they were constantly looking for more and more, and that can never satisfy anyone. So we should be happy with what we have. So now Kardama Muni is hearing from, who is he hearing from? From Swayambhuva Manu, the administrator, the ruler of this universe, who is revealing to him that he has brought forth the proposal of his daughter Devahūti. And he is saying that if you have received, so Swayambhuva Manu is revealing to Kardama Muni that you must accept this charity, because she is sister of Priyavrata Manu and Priyavrata and Uttanpad. So it is not that he is threatening the sage, right? If somebody says, she happens to be sister of such and such big guys, and if in today's times, what it means is that if you don't accept, those guys, her brothers are going to come and beat you up, right? But that is not what is intended here. He is glorifying, he is identifying his sons as her brothers, his daughter's brothers, because they are very righteous king, they are very magnanimous in their attitude, they are protecting, all the populace and maintaining the brahmanas, the old people, the women and the children very well. They are taking great care of their citizens. And citizens means not just the human beings, but also the animals, the birds, the aquatics. So all kind of living entities are taken care. Whoever has taken birth in the kingdom becomes a citizen. It doesn't matter which yoni, which kind of birth they have taken. They could be born as cats and dogs or as birds, but they should be given proper care. So that has been identified in this particular chapter. And so Kardama Muni is hearing that Devahūti, as how Swayambhuva Manu is revealing that she heard about the qualities, about the form, about the glories and the activities of Kardama Muni from Devashi Narad. So Lord Vishnu had said that, Swayambhuva Manu will come to you and offer you his daughter in marriage to Kardama Muni when he had appeared before. And now Kardama Muni is hearing from Swayambhuva Manu as how Devashi Narad was the media. So people, they come to fix the matches, right? And so when he was coming, so again, this is Sadhu Sangha, Swayambhuva Manu is eagerly welcoming. And when Devashi Narad goes to Swayambhuva Manu in his kingdom, at that time, there, he is glorifying the qualities of Kardama Muni, and hearing the qualities, or hearing the life of Kardama Muni, Devahūti, who had not given her heart to anyone, she accepts Kardama Muni, she accepts him as her husband. So she fell in love with him just by hearing. And sometimes, in the mundane world, people realize that these are the facts, that just by hearing, ladies, they want to hear more, and men are more incited by the sight, right? They are like, that's why they get attracted, just like moth gets attracted to the candles, right? The candlelight, the fire. And while devotees, they understand that yes, the greatest beauty in this world is in Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji, Shri Radha Baki Bihari Ji. So again, Ras Bihari Ji. So again, devotees, they understand what the true beauty is. But in this material world, people run after, the skin deep beauty, just the outer looks, and that agitates the mind. So we should be looking for the true beauty in this world. We should be looking at the deities, we should be looking at the devotees and understanding that yes, such great personalities, their qualities should be cherished. So she had already given her mind, had already given her heart to Kardama Muni, not having seen him even once. And so Swayambhuva Manu is revealing that my daughter is already, she has accepted you. And so because she had not given her heart to anyone, she is still a virgin girl with great qualities, she would be a suitable wife for you. Kardama Muni at that time, and then there is one more plea that Swayambhuva Manu places in front of Kardama Muni. He says that I know that you have already requested you were worshipping the Lord, you were, engaged in devotional service of the Lord, so that you can get a suitable wife. So I am already aware of it. And now this, by its own accord, I have come to give you a suitable partner in your life. So you must accept it. Otherwise, if you reject this offering, right, if you reject this charity, so Kanya Dan, right, it's a charity. One gives their daughter in charity and attains amazing pious results. So if you don't accept this charity and later on you approach someone else for suitable match, right, and you will not be able to find such a suitable match for you, then it will make you diminish in your position, all your glories will go away. So he's also identifying, he's teaching us the lesson that in charity, if something comes on its own accord, we should accept it, as an prasad. And so again here Kardama Muni is looking for a wife, a great father, the administrator of the universe. He's offering his daughter, the princess of the administrator of the world, whose brothers are ruling the planet Earth, the 7 dvipas, the 7 continents. And she, is, a princess, but she is being offered in marriage to Kardama Muni. And Kardama Muni at that time, he is quiet. And when Swayambhu Muni has placed his full offering, right, as a charity, that he wants to offer his daughter in marriage to Kardama Muni smiles, and he, shows the indication that yes, he is accepting, but he is also glorifying that I have already heard. So again, hearing is very potent. So hearing is Shravanam, when we hear about the Supreme Lord and his devotees. So Kardama Muni is his devotee, a pure devotee. He tells the king very nicely, he reveals his mind, because he is also identifying why he wanted a wife. He says that yes, I have decided to accept a wife because the Prajapati, my father. So who is this Prajapati? Lord Brahma, because Kardama Muni is born from the shadow of Lord Brahma. So he is saying that my father asked me to increase the progeny. So that's why I have been looking for a wife. And I have already heard about the glories of Devahūti, that when she was playing on the terrace of the palace. So this is like, very, tall building. And Vishwavasu, a Gandharva, famous Gandharva, when he looked at her through his plane, so he was on his Viman, through his plane, when he looked at her as she was playing. So again, not all girls would play with the balls, so she was playing with the balls, so that was prevalent. Even at that time, this is Satyuga we're talking about, and how her ankle bells were twinkling, and how her eyes were constantly moving from one place to another as she was smiling and playing. At that time, looking at her beauty, looking at the sound vibration of her anklets tinkling, Vishwavasu, a great Gandharva, was stupefied with infatuation, right? And he fell from his plane head first. So this is where he is identifying that Devahūti is ornaments for the ornament. She is much more beautiful than all the ornamented girls that can be placed. She is so beautiful that when she wears the ornaments look beautiful because of her, not the other way around. If you see in this material world, people put on ornaments to look beautiful. But Devahūti, when she puts on ornaments, the ornaments look beautiful because she is wearing them. And he is identifying this. So again, sometimes people say, but how could a brahmachari be talking in this manner? No, these are the aspects that he has heard, and he is reflecting that, he is reciprocating, glorifying the quality of the daughter of Swayambhu Manu who is being offered. But he is also revealing his mind, that he is saying that when I will have a son from her, and he already knows that Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he appeared to Kardama Muni, he said that I would appear. First you will have 9 daughters from your wife, and then I would appear through a plenary portion of me, would appear as your son. So he reveals to Swayambhu Manu that when I will have a son through her, at that time I will depart the householder life and I will engage in devotional service. So he is clearly making an indication that he would take to sannyas at that point. So Swayambhuva Manu is hearing that as soon as he gets a son, this sage, he will leave my daughter in the care of his son. And Swayambhuva Manu accepts it. Actually, Srila Prabhupada in the purport reveals that women are constantly protected when they are young. At that time, they are protected by their father and their brothers, especially their father. And so they are protected at that stage. After marriage, they are protected and provided, guardianship and protection by their husbands. And when the husbands grow old, they take to sannyas, and if they have sons, then they are protected and cared for by their sons. So this is women, right? They are constantly protected. Now sometimes people look at this and they say, oh, there is no independence. No, there is full independence within the, social order. So again, even all the men have to follow the social order. Just because currently, men do all kind of nonsense activities and they say no, women need protection, and they rather misuse, they exploit women with these thoughts. That's why it has become evil in this Kali age. So again, in Kali age, Kala Shuddha Sambhava, and Shuddhas, they don't follow any injunctions. So again, they cause all kind of havoc, not just to the society, but to their own self and to their family members. So we should be very, very careful that in this current times, by injunctions, we should understand what is the context. The context is that, it's about equity, not equality. Equity is to give sufficient facilities to the disadvantaged part of the society, the old people, the young generations, as well as women and Brahmanas especially. So again, you can talk about it from the ashram perspective. The brahmacharya, all the brahmacharis, they should be given protection and maintenance. People who are in vanaprastha, people who are in sannyas ashram, they should also be taken care of. Young children as well as women should be taken care of. So all these aspects are very essential for a healthy society. Yet at the same time, we see in this Kali age that it is happening the other way. The Lord's devotees, the Vaishnavas, they are maintaining the other orders, and sometimes even the people who are in administrative order. So governments take away, the offerings that have been made in the temple for their own running of the government, instead of, using it, letting the devotees use it in preaching Krishna consciousness, in preaching God consciousness, because that is the duty of a Brahmana, that is the duty of a Vaishnava. And so we should seek the guidance through Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. Again, Sadhus are the devotees, Guru, the spiritual master, and the Shastras, these bona fide scriptures. So all three have to be bona fide. We cannot just whimsically choose them. And they are all identified by the activities, by the characteristics that we see, not just by the words, right? Sometimes teacher says, do as I say and not as I do. So that is not the definition of Acharya. Rather, Acharya is, do as I do. And see if you can follow what I say, because I'm going to follow what I say before I ask you to follow what I say. That is the mood of a Vaishnava devotee. So here, the marriage is required in the society. So now the marriage is happening. Kardama Muni has agreed, Swayambhuva Manu has agreed. He has come with his wife Shatrupa, and of course when a king goes, especially the emperor of the universe goes, he would take all his paraphernalia and entourage with him. So all that is there, and Devahūti is married to Kardama Muni. And in that marriage, Swayambhuva Manu suitably gives abundance of dowry, right? Ornaments, clothes, and these are to make sure that the welfare of the daughter. And what is the criteria of selecting the groom? His qualities, his suitable match. So again, we use, in India, when the marriage is happening, in the old times, people will look at how's the astrology, how's the stars aligning, how's the meeting of the minds there, meeting of the heart is there. And then the family meeting of their traditions and so forth. That used to be the criteria. Now the criteria is changing in Kali age. It is changing to say, oh, my son is an engineer, so he must get in dowry so and so. That was never the criteria. The dowry was always based on the ability of the father of the girl who is to be married. So the bride's father, based on his abilities, would offer. It was never the criteria that the groom is so qualified and so educated and has a plan of going to UK or US and abroad. That was never the criteria. Now that is becoming a criteria. So this is abominable practices that are coming up, right? In India, this is going on, and many times around the world also, these things are going on. That's why now people are discovering new ways. We see prenuptial agreements happening before the marriage, because if there is a celebrity lady wants to marry a man who may or may not be celebrity, so they put a prenuptial agreement that this is my property and that is your property and we have nothing to do with it. Where the meeting of mind has not taken place. It's only a meeting of bodies that's happening, which is the animal kind. It's an animal propensity to look at it. The meeting of mind means they have to be suitable with the qualities so that they can both spiritually grow. That is an essential aspect in society that we should continue to increase again and encourage. So here, since Kardama Muni was not a Nashtika Brahmachari. Nashtika Brahmacharis are the brahmacharis who take vow to never marry in their life. And sometimes Nashtika Brahmacharis, they become very proud too. That is also there, yes. That's another aspect. That they say, see, we are not going to marry, so marriage is bad. No, the Shastras say the marriage of the, with the spiritual purpose, that the meeting of the mind is there, and husband and wife, they can support each other, because that is also sadhu sangha. Husband and wife, they are both devotees, then they are giving each other sadhu sangha, devotee association. And so that is a great, combination. Because in India there is a saying, ek aur ek 11 hota hai, right? 1 + 1 is 11. So this particular aspect is there because when we are looking at a bhakti lata in a garden of our devotion, then the fence is basically devotee association, sadhu sangha. And so this is an essential aspect where we see that meeting of the mind is there. The girl is given in charity, the bride's father, she attains great benefit and great pious benedictions when he gives in charity. So sacrifice, charity and austerity should never be given up, right? Penance, sometimes said. So this is where he has given so much. Now, does that mean now Kardama Muni would move into a palatial building to do his devotion service? No. He is happy where he is because that is his habitat, that is his environment. And that's why forest is said to be in the mode of goodness, while the cities and towns are said to be in the mode of passion. And abominable places like the clubhouses and the dark cities, the dark streets of the towns where there are many clubs and restaurants are running, that is in the mode of ignorance. So here we are hearing that Swayambhuva Manu, after marrying his daughter, he is completely free, that he has done the right thing because he has a very qualified daughter, a princess who has been married to a very qualified and highly elevated personality like Kardama Muni, and he lives with his entourage. And he's looking at the various hermitages of the sages, right? Sadhu Kutir, Sadhu Kul, sometimes it's said. And he's appreciating. Now, it is very interesting. Like someone who lives in a palace, when they're crossing through, the straw hut houses, and he would appreciate because he's seeing the quality as how, simple living and higher thinking these personalities in the, at the bank of Saraswati, they are, performing, and everything looks so serene, so beautiful because it's been decorated with the nature which has all kind of flowers, fruits, beautiful vegetations, waterfalls, the flowing of Saraswati. The nature has beauty, right? And that is where in mode of goodness it is so nicely being maintained. And the kings, they would make sure that there are no ferocious animals in such an area So they would rather first try to drive away the ferocious animals to another area, or Kshatriyas would go on an arcade. They would go on hunting expeditions to make sure that the sages in the jungle, they are not disturbed, the ashrams are not disturbed, and so forth. So that used to be the purpose, not for hobby purpose, not for just to have fun, or just to kind of like carry out your aspiration that I have killed a lion or an elephant. That was never the reason behind it. They were always purposeful. They were mindful of every single activity because they were doing it to please Lord Shri Krishna. They're doing it to protect the praja, the citizens. So again, that has been identified. And so here, when Swayambhuva Manu is returning back, he's glorifying all this. So let's, in the previous class, again we are covered as how Lord Vishnu, when he was departing, it's something amazing happened. That when Lord Vishnu was departing at that time, because of love for Kardama Muni, he was on Garuda, and Garuda was flapping his wings, and from the flapping of those wings, the Samaveda was being, echoed in the atmosphere. So everybody could hear the hymns from Samaveda. And Samaveda has glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Garuda is constantly glorifying the Lord with the hymns from Samaveda. And as he was departing, Lord, because of love for Kardama Muni, he approached the Lord to get the suitable wife. And knowing that Kardama Muni is only asking for his wife because of the instructions, because of the order of his father, Lord Brahma, who said that you should increase the progeny, increase the population in this universe. And he just doesn't want any population like cats and dogs to spread in this world. He wants a qualified, son. So there are two kinds of sons one should look for. One son is one who is a devotee of the Lord, who is a Vaishnava, so that he crosses over this cycle of birth and death and goes back home, back to Godhead. And not just he would go back home, the 7 generations above, the 7 generations below, and 7 generations, 7 links, literally, they will go away. So 21 generations are spoken in this manner. Second type of son is, expecting Lord or his primary positions or portion of his primary position to be the son. So these are the kind of sons one should look for. And we all understand one should not look for sons so that they accumulate wealth and then the intention is to give this wealth to the children after they leave the body. Because if they are good sons, they will be able to earn and acquire wealth if need to be. And if they are bad sons, then no matter how much wealth you give, they will spend it frivolously. Put saput to kyo dhan sanchay, put kaput to kyo dhan sanchay. Agar put saput hai, if he is a good son, then why to collect money or property? And if he is a bad son, kaput, then why to worry about collecting money, because it will be all wasted away. So again, we learn some amazing lessons. So when Lord was departing, because of love for Kardama Muni, that he would appear as his son, because seeing the feeling of Kardama Muni to serve his father, right? So Lord, sometimes when he sees someone being such a good son, he wants to become the son of that good son who is carrying out the order of his father. And so Lord, from his eyes, a few tears drops fell, and they took the form of a lake, Bindu Sarovar. That's the name of this lake. So again, there are more glories about Bindu Sarovar in many shastras. So this lake was formed by the tears that fell, and these are happy tears. This is tears in jubilation, tears of love that fell from the eyes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he was returning back on Garuda, back to his abode. So here we also hear the great qualities of Kardama Muni, because Kardama Muni, he is a simple Brahman, he is a simple brahmachari who had been living, and his life shows us the qualities of a Vaishnava. And in SRIMADBHAGAVATAM, in the 3rd canto, in the 25th chapter, just 4 chapters from there, or basically 3 chapters from here, this chapter will be hearing about the qualities of a Vaishnava. Titikshava karunikaha suhat sarvadehinam ajashatravaha shantaha sadvaha sadhu bhushanaha. So again, titikshavaha. Titikshavaha means one who is tolerant, right? We also hear the third verse in Shiksha Ashtaka referring to tolerance. Taradapi shunichena tarurapi saishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So one should be more humble than the grass on the street, more tolerant than the tree, ready to give all respect to others but not expecting any respect in return. One can chant constantly, one can glorify the Lord constantly. So here Titikshava means tolerant. Titikshava Karunika. Karunika means merciful. He is compassionate towards all living entities. He is seeking to preach Krishna consciousness, like Srila Prabhupada came to the West and he was preaching Krishna consciousness and delivering Paschatya Deshtayane, right? And what kind of people he was delivering? People who are addicted to drugs, to sex life, to all kind of abominable activities. And he was delivering them. And these were Shunyavadi, voidism. They did not know what the purpose of life. So again, to teach the purpose of life, to make them. So again, just by association of a Vaishnava like Srila Prabhupada, many personalities, even though they were living very abominable lives, they were delivered because they take to Krishna consciousness. They took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. So here we are seeing these great qualities of a Vaishnava. Titikshava Karunikaha, Surhida Sarvadehinam. Surhida Sarvadehinam. Where do we hear Surhida again? Surhida Sarva Bhutanam, Lord Krishna says in 5.29, the peace formula words, that he is the best friend, he is the well-wisher, he is the benefactor of all living entities. So of course when Lord is the best friend of all living entities, that means his devotee, a Vaishnava, is also Surhida Sarvadehinam. Sarvadehi means those who have embodied body. So again, those who are embodied. So all kind of living entities, not just human beings, but also the bees, the birds, the aquatics and others. And Ajat Shatravaha Shantaha. Ajat Shatravaha means one who does not know anyone to be his enemy, right? It also has been translated many times that one who has no enemies. Because if you look at Ajat Shatru, that was another name of Yudhishthira Maharaj, and we all know that Duryodhan was his enemy. But Yudhishthira Maharaj never thought of Duryodhan as his enemy. He always thought of Duryodhan as his brother, as his cousin. And he was very compassionate towards Duryodhan. It was Duryodhan who always considered Yudhishthira Maharaj as his enemy, and he was trying to kill not just Yudhishthira Maharaj, but all the brothers, including his aunt, Kunti Devi, Queen Kunti. So again, Ajat Shatrava means a devotee understanding that everyone is my friend, is a well-wisher of everyone, and he is the benefactor of everyone. He accepts everyone, close to their heart, Suhrida. So of course they don't consider anyone as their enemy. And Shantaha, and they are peaceful because they are free of all anxieties. They are constantly engaged in devotional service. They are completely peaceful because they understand the formula, the peace formula. What is the peace formula? Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram surhidam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati bhoktaram yagatapasam. Lord Krishna reveals to Arjuna that Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the beneficiary of all sacrifices. So all kind of sacrifices that we do in our lives. Sometimes we see people saying, I'm making a sacrifice for my family. So that is the wrong concept. You should not be making sacrifice for your family, but you should be making a sacrifice for Lord Vishnu and engaging your family in making that sacrifice so that everyone benefits, right? And accept whatever comes on its own accord as the mercy of the Lord. So that should be the thought. And Bhoktaram Yaktapsam Sarvalok Maheshwaram, and he is the supreme proprietor. Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of all the material and spiritual universes, all that can be, including us. So he is our owner. So again, there are two kind of Kshetragyas, the knower of the body or the proprietor of the body. One is we, the living entities, and then right in our heart is Lord expanded as super soul. So in every living entity's heart, he is also residing as super soul. So there is soul and there is super soul. And super soul is also the proprietor of the body. Another very nice example in Bhagavad Gita that is given is that, in a kingdom where the king is ruling, everyone who has a house or land is the proprietor of that land, right? But the king is the proprietor of all lands. That is also very important to understand. People don't understand that second aspect, that the king or the government is the proprietor of all lands. And if they want the citizen to leave a specific land, then they should give them sufficient compensation in exchange for them. So that's again, spatial assessment is another name in the real estate field that we hear, which is the compensation has to be given to the property owner, the local property owner, so that he can give that land back to the government to use it for whatever purpose. And sometimes people become unequivocal towards the government because they don't understand the basics in real estate. So again, we have to be we should understand these things in proper perspective. So Lord Kṛṣṇa, he has revealed that in Bhagavad Gita, that I am also the knower of the body. But we can only know our body, right? And also that knowledge of our body is limited, right? If we knew completely our body, we'll stop COVID-19 from entering any of our body completely, and nobody would fall sick. But since we have limited knowledge of our body, we get sick, we get old, we take birth, we go through so many diseases and old age, what to talk about anything else. So we still go through Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanudarshanam because we have limited understanding of our body. Many people, they don't even understand what's the purpose of the body. They should be engaged in serving the Lord, in pleasing the Lord. They should be engaged in devotional service constantly. Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya. So again, to constantly please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So here, but Lord, he is in our body, he is the body of every living entity, because even though he is one, Super Soul is one, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is one, but he has expanded himself, so he appears to be many. So I know my business, you know your business, but Lord Kṛṣṇa knows everyone's business because he is residing in everyone's heart as Super Soul, as Paramatma. So that is a very important aspect that we should understand. And Lord Kṛṣṇa, once again, when he appeared as Varahadev, at that time he shook his body after, he came out from the Garbhuda Ocean carrying the planet Earth. He shook his body, and at that time what happened was, his hair fell on the land, and that land was called Barhishmati, which is the capital, the citizens of Barhishmati, and Barhishmati is the capital of Brahmavarta, which is the kingdom of Swayambhuva Manu. So with his entourage, his wife and his family members, Swayambhuva Manu returned to Barhishmati, and there he was, again going back to his palace. And so again, this place is also glorified because Lord Varahadev's hair fell on this land. And here in Swayambhuva Manu's palace, there are temples. So again, he is constantly, the family members, they are constantly engaged in devotional service. Every morning they are awakened when they hear the glories of the Lord, right? And every evening they engage in devotional service, so that when they go to sleep with the right consciousness, constantly meditating on the sweet name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So in this manner, they are completely immersed in devotional service by carrying out their activities aligned, right? So there is Swadharma, as Kshatriyas, they are carrying out the ruling, and there is Sanatan Dharma, which is the constitutional position, constantly engagement in devotional service. That is Sanatan Dharma. Sometimes people just say Hindu Dharma is Sanatan Dharma. That is the biggest misconception we keep hearing. But again, what is Hindu Dharma? That needs to be understood. What are you doing as part of this Dharma? What kind of sacrifice, austerity and charity? Those are the things that you are constantly engaged in. And you are carrying out various activities with mind, body and words. So all these activities should be dovetailed in pleasing Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. Lord Kṛṣṇa is in the center. So again, Swayambhuva Manu, his own aspect and his life has been described, that he is such an opulent, he is the emperor of the universe, and he is carrying out his duties, his Kshatriya duties, to protect the citizens of the universe very nicely. And he is constantly engaged in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives the example of the kings of Jaipur, as how these kings, they would have a temple in the palace, and they would open the palace, for general populace to come and engage in Mangala Arati. So the family members would go in Mangala Arati, Dhoop Aratis, and evening Arati. Again, they would be constantly engaged in devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada says that back in those days when he was here, so again at that time, in the Jaipur palace, the temple were open, and anytime you go, about 500 people or more would be present. Even from the general population, people would go to have darshan of the deities, to engage in devotional service of the deities, to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa and Radharani. So that is the mood. And there he was residing, Swayambhuva Manu in Barhishmati was residing, which is the capital of Brahmavarta, his kingdom. And he was constantly engaged in devotional service. This city was, had the richest and all kinds of wealth, and it was, everyone in this city under the guardianship, under the protection of Swayambhuva Manu, was constantly also engaged in devotional service. So it's not that the administrator should be engaged in devotional service, all citizens should be engaged in devotional service. And how will that be possible? When there are Brahmanas, where there are Vaishnavas who are constantly engaged in devotional service. So again we hear the importance of Vaishnavas that engage us in devotional service. So we hear in this chapter how to completely take shelter of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. First is Sadhu Sangha, the importance of Sadhu Sangha, the importance of Vaishnavas, the importance of spiritual masters, the importance of having a Sangha where everyone is glorifying others, not looking for their self-glorification, because the mood is of das anu das anu das. It is not boss, a new boss and a new boss. That is not the mood. It's not about I, it's about how can we please the Lord, how can we all engage each other, how can I give you what you seek, and how can we together participate in pleasing Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So again, that is bhaichara, right? So again, prachar requires that bhaichara, that feeling of brotherhood, the feeling of sisterhood sometimes also said. So again, all Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, they should come together to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, because that is the transcendental platform. It is not on the material platform. Brahmanas are on the material platform. It's one of the modes of material nature, the Sattva Guna. But the Vaishnavas are above the three modes of material nature. So we should understand that a Vaishnava is much higher than just a Brahmana, and Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana, because there is no mix of the other modes. And the nature, their activities will reveal this to us. So here in this chapter, we hear that particular aspect, how to take shelter of devotional service. We also hear that marriage is a great ceremony, a great, as per the injunction of the Shastras, where person can enter into Grihastha ashram with the focus that he and his wife would be engaged in devotional service. When it is about Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa in the center, then a person is called Grihastha. Well, the wife is called Grihini. Grihini means the owner of the house, not Grihastha. Grihastha means a householder who maintains the house. He is not the owner or proprietor of the house. It is the Grihini who is the proprietor of the house. So again, in the Shastras, very clearly it's given. Sometimes people say, no, this is my house and this is my house, and they have a fight and they split the house in half and half. While the man doesn't even know that by doing that, he's actually trying to usurp someone else's property. The property belongs to the wife, not to the man. So that is also another important aspect. And they are both together. So a householder is holding himself to maintain the house, so that husband and wife together are serving the Lord. That is another aspect. Second is, if instead of serving the Lord, a householder thinks that his senses should be satisfied, that the wife is his property and now she should serve him. and he should enjoy sense gratification. Now he becomes a Graha Medhi, right? That is a very bad thing. That is a sinful life. So again, that is something that should be avoided. Rather, husband and wife should have a meeting of the mind, meeting of the heart to please Lord Shri Krishna. So the focus is to please Lord Shri Krishna and to produce Krishna conscious children to engage. So Garbhodhan Samskar has also been identified by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, where he says that husband and wife, before begetting children, they do minimum 64 rounds. It's a great ceremony where everyone is welcome to give the blessings to the husband and wife who are planning to have a child. They are not having a child yet. The Godh Bharai and other things, they happen afterwards. That various kind of gifts are offered so that the family can take care of the young child that is born. And at that time, they would welcome the sages and the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they would feed them nicely so that they would get blessings. So that was already the main aspect of Godh Bharai. Now we have added other aspects, that this is baby shower concept has come in and so forth, so that various kind of gifts are given which can be used in bringing up the baby very nicely. But again, in old times, as soon as the babies were born and so forth, again they were constantly hearing Hari Kirtan, so they would constantly become engaged in devotional service from the very beginning, from the early age itself. And then the third aspect is that a devotee, his life does not age. Because he is constantly engaged in devotional service. In SRIMADBHAGAVATAM it is said, with the rising and setting of the sun, the life is reduced of those who are not Krishna conscious, that who are not engaged in devotional service. So they are never fresh, while devotees, they are ever fresh. They are constantly engaging, because what is the mood? How do they engage in devotional service? Devotees, they are constantly engaging with the 6 symptoms. Utsaha nishchaya dharya tat karma pravartana sangyataga sato vritte sadbir bhakti prasiddhati. With great enthusiasm, utsaha, they are engaged in devotional service. With great determination, nishchayat, with great conviction, they are engaged in devotional service. Dharyat, with great patience, they are just seeking to please Lord Shri Krishna, understanding that Lord Shri Krishna, he can come anytime. Remember the pastime of Shabri? She was told by her spiritual master that Lord Rāma would appear. So for thousands of years she lived, and every day she would go out in the jungle to collect the berries. And she was in so much to make sure that the berries are sweet. She would taste them to make sure that they were sweet. Not that she wanted to give her tasted berries to Lord Rāma, but she wanted to make sure that she is offering the best. That's why she was tasting. We should not use Shabri's example, because she is an exalted devotee of the Lord. And again, but we understand that the best should be offered to Lord Shri Krishna. Sometimes people hear in rich houses, they hear Patam Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakta Prayachiri Tadham Bhakta Upritam Ashnami Prayatatmanaha. So Patra Pushpa Phala Toyam Yome Bhakta Prayachiri. They say, okay, Patra is leaves, Pushpa is flower, Phal is fruits, Toyam is little water. If one can offer to the Lordship, then that is sufficient. So they are having great feast while they are offering some basic fruits and little water and flour to the deities. That's not the best way. Whatever has been prepared should be offered as bhoga first to the Lordship. Then the remnants should be taken up by the family, and it should be in sattvic mode, right? It should be purifying and nourishing to the body. That kind of foodstuff should be taken, right? After having been offered to the Lordship, after having been offered to the spiritual masters, after having been offered to the other devotees, again that's prasad. So we should share it with the devotees in the association. That should be the mode. So again, in current times, we see that we should offer the very best thing. And dhairya, so patience is also very important. Sometimes people say we don't have taste for chanting. Have the patience, because you have to endure, right? If you want to meet the Prime Minister or President of a country, would you just say, okay, I want to meet the Prime Minister, and you immediately get it? No. You have to make so much endeavor to make, first show your qualification, seek to, get an appointment, try to have right connections. So again, we seek the right connections through the devotees, through the spiritual masters, through the injunctions in the scripture, we need to build the right qualification, that right mood of love, surrender, gratitude, humility. All these great qualities we have to constantly develop. So patience is the tat karma pavatana, 9 process of devotional service. And sanga tyagat, and give up the association of materialistic man who are running after money and women. And sato vritte, following the footsteps of acharyas, following the footsteps of the spiritual masters, of sadhus. Sato vritti, so santo ki jo instructions unko follow karna chahiye. What does that mean? That how do you follow instructions? There are 2 ways one can follow: anukaran and anusharan. Anukaran is doing the same thing as what they are doing. That is imitation. We should not do it that way. Anukaran is not the way. Anusharan, following their instructions. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he got the instruction even before he had become a disciple. At that time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave him the instruction that please translate these books in English and preach to the Western world, to the English-speaking world. And Srila Prabhupada took that instruction. That is what Sato Vritti means, that following the instructions of the great souls. And we can make our life blissful, ever fresh, eternal, and live eternally in Vaikuntha. Even though we may be in this body, the body becomes spiritualized, the mind becomes spiritualized, the intelligence becomes spiritualized, our life becomes spiritualized. How can sun or time touch a life built in that way? Yes, the body is nashwa, it will go on. But we as living entities, we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. Jivera Suruphoya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. Please try to understand this and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, take shelter of the devotee association, so that we can all spread the love of Godhead in this world and make our life blissful, eternal, and ever fresh. Hare Krishna. This is where the chapter ends. Kantra SRIMADBHAGAVATAM ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitaya Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for joining us today in Srimad Bhagavatam class. Prabhuji, we do not see any questions at this point.
Hare Krishna. So, Gantha SRIMADBHAGAVATAM ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitaya Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hari Bol.
Krishna.